whenever there's an Israeli war, the propaganda is so painful to listen to. It's so again, words fail me. I think I'll just go through these clips with you and demonstrate what I'm talking about. So first of all, some Israeli war crimes like using white phosphorus. How about that?
على الشاشة القصف متواصل على تلة إرمد
المباشرة من تلة إرمد التي تتعرض لقصف إسرائيلي في هذه الأثناء ردا على ما يقوله الجيش الإسرائيلي.
Here's another one. So this is, again, it's an internationally banned weapon. It's a chemical weapon, and it basically, you can think of it sort of similar to napalm. You know, the point of it is to cause insane burns, and if it touches you, you will. I mean, it not only kills but maims in ways similar to napalm and cluster bombs. You know, it's in that category of just horrific weapons, really horrific. They're so bad that most countries have banned them and they just don't use them because they don't even provide a tactical or military advantage. They just make people suffer. That's it. You know, these are burns that are not, you know, you yourself would not be able to put out. Other people would struggle to put out. They can give you, you know, they can cause organ failure. They can cause diseases. You know, white phosphorus, for example, was used by the Americans in Fallujah, right? So in Fallujah, there were several battles after the invasion of Iraq in 2003, and they used depleted uranium because it has better armor-piercing capabilities. Doesn't make sense because this was not a battle against other tanks. There was no armor to penetrate in the first place. They were just firing at buildings. So I don't understand what armor piercing enhancement is supposed to do, but they used them. And, you know, the depleted uranium plus the white phosphorus, they seep into the environment, into the soil, and people living in Fallujah, they got, you know, their children got insane birth defects, and that's to this day. So, you know, we're in 2023. It's been 20 years now since the invasion, and you got kids that are being born there with birth defects, the worst in the world. I mean, they have more congenital heart disease than children in Nagasaki and Hiroshima. Okay, the thing is, at least in Nagasaki and Hiroshima, you know, a nuclear bomb went off and then there's radiation. People in Fallujah, or people in Ukraine now, because we've sent depleted uranium over to Ukraine for them to use. People in the future, you know, they will have diseases or you know, develop serious illnesses, or their children, because they don't know what's in the environment, and because this stuff is indiscriminate. It's you know, it lingers on and causes irreparable damage to the environment and to the inhabitants. So, you know, the fact that the Israelis are using this, they're not stupid. They know exactly what it is. They know exactly it serves no tactical purpose, you know, and this is it's just unsurprising, honestly, that they can get away with using this. No one gives a crap, even with the conventional bombs, let's say, right? Like, I know it's not any better, but even with conventional ordinances, nobody cares. You know, the media just want to talk about made up stories about Hamas babies and this and that. And when you show, you show them video after video after photo after video, I've become sick to my stomach looking at these things. So horrible. You know, even this journalist, the Reuters journalist in South Lebanon today, ripped in two pieces because of an Israeli shell. No one cares. Even Reuters wouldn't say that Israel killed them. Like, do you see what level of you know, moral bankruptcy we're dealing with? Intellectual bankruptcy, dishonesty. It's too much. It's too much to bear. And you know, this is for us watching on the outside and covering this on the outside. So can you imagine how it is for people that are in Gaza who have to live under this, you know, in what is basically a concentration camp? You know, just because they say, oh, this is this is Hamas' fault does not make it so. Hamas is not the one dropping these bombs. This is Israel choosing to do that. Period. No one is using human shields at all. The fact that people want to stay in their homes, it's their right to stay in their homes. I really wonder how much people, how much of this people would tolerate in the West. Like, can you imagine being in this situation? Try to imagine that, people who can't understand what's happening, try to imagine it. How much of Israel's bullshit would you tolerate? Is Hamas going around and kicking people out of their homes? Is Hezbollah or Syria doing that? It's their homes that have been taken by the Israelis since 1948. These are, European settlers that could go elsewhere. They could go back home to where they came from, and then peacefully emigrate to Palestine, and just live amongst people like Jews and Christians and Muslims have done for thousands of years. There's no problem. But when you try to nationalize it and take it and control it and make it into an ethno-state, this becomes a problem. And the ethnic cleansing, the massacres that took place in 48, you think people forgot about that? Or in Sabra and Shatila, in the refugee camps in Lebanon, and it's so much. It's like it's a never-ending book of horrors. Truly, I really, no words that could aptly describe what's happening. You can't overstate how bad this is. It's so bad. And what the media do is they add insult to injury. You have these ghouls. I can't describe them as anything but ghouls who try to justify what Israel is doing. They always insist that they're the victims and so on. I want to show you something here. I mean, I haven't even watched it myself. I knew that I'd probably lose it. So
I'm a human being. But
sure you do.
You
sound very outraged.
The outrage among Republican presidential candidates was so much more intense. One of them took to a bullhorn and started yelling about it. I get it, but no one would think to do that about the 100,000 American young people murdered every year.
Because who are you yelling at? Who are you yelling at? First of all, people are on bullhorns yelling about drug overdoses and the open border all the time. All the time. What is he even talking about? What he's attempting to is minimize what happened in Israel. He's not attempting to maximize what happened in the United States. He's attempting to minimize, as though America can't walk and chew gum, morally speaking, at the same time, which is absurd. And those
fuck Israel. How about that? Fuck you and fuck Israel. We need to stop entertaining Israeli bullshit. We need to be maybe we need to be a bit more like them. Just screw you. These people like Ben Shapiro and Jordan Peterson, who he can't kiss Netanyahu's ass enough. It's a ritual for him every day. He just gets up and thinks about it all the time. They are morally bankrupt. They are colonizers. They are thieves. They are killers. There is nothing worse than trying to justify a goddamn American base in the Middle East that has no real purpose. That does not actually need to be there. Like as I was saying before, Jews, Christians, Muslims literally come from this area. Okay, so don't come here and tell me that there's a problem between Palestinians and Jews. This is horse manure. I will not tolerate this. There is no problem. The problem is Europeans coming and stealing other people's land. Period. And I don't understand why people in America should give a shit about Israel. What is the connection between America and Israel? What does somebody in Texas have to do with Israel? What is the connection here? There is no connection. They want you to feel like you should give a crap about Israel. Why? The only thing you should care about is that your money is paying for this white phosphorus to be dropped on residential buildings. You should care about that. Yes. Here, let's look at some proper journalists again. I mean it. Look at this.
You're saying that Israel is a democracy. It's a country that abides by international law. I'm asking you, the cutoff of water, electricity, food, and medicine is considered a war crime. Do you call on Israel to cease its effort now in cutting off medicine,
Let
water,
me start by saying that we are
aid?
in the early days of Israel's response. Israel has a right to conduct an.
What does that mean? We are in the early days. Where you're going to wait and see whether they cutting off the water really bothers Palestinians. Maybe they're not fish. Maybe they don't need the water. Maybe they can live without it. It doesn't matter if you cut it off for 1 hour. It's still a war crime. Is he nuts? And then again, Israel has the right to defend itself. You know, I keep hearing this bullshit slogan so much. I think I'm beginning to understand. When they say Israel has the right to defend itself, they mean to commit war crimes, to commit genocide, to stuff people inside of a ghetto and then bomb them inside of the ghetto and control their food and treat them like vermin. That's what they mean when Israel has the right to defend itself. Wow. So once again, I ask Americans, I ask Westerners, I ask people in Britain, are you okay with our governments defending and financing this kind of behavior? Are you okay with that? Are you really all right with that? Could you last 2 minutes in somebody's shoes in Gaza? How well do you think you would fare if you were in Gaza? Ask yourself this. Ask yourself and be honest. Be honest with yourself. Ask yourself this question.
An aggressive response to respond to the terrorism that's been committed against its citizens. We expect them.
Why do Israelis always have the right to, defend themselves and respond to attacks against their citizens? Palestinians don't have the right? You've been attacking them for 48 years. For 75 years, since 1948. They don't have the right. If anyone has the right on this planet, it's Palestinians. I swear to God. I told you it's the longest occupation in modern history. Ukraine is a fart compared to this. It's not even a blip. Palestinians have had it up to here and then through the roof and then up to there. Okay? Why do they have the right to respond? They're not human beings? What are you implying? Why do Israelis have special status? Is it because they're the chosen people?
To follow international law. We believe that they will, and we will remain in close contact with them about it.
You believe they should not intentionally...
Will remain in close contact. What are you planning a fucking dinner party? You know that they're violating international law. You know that you could make them stop in a second by cutting off the weapons, but you choose to allow them to do that because you need Israel to act as a sphere of influence in the Middle East.
Target civilians. That's one. Second, do you have any idea on the number of Palestinians killed by Israel in the last 4 days?
I have seen public reports.
What are these?
I am not going to speak to the Saeed, I'm going to speak to what the U.S. government can verify, which I've done with the number of U.S. citizens. I will let Israel speak to the number of Israeli citizens that have killed, as well as the number of Palestinians that have killed.
Yeah, okay. So when it doesn't suit them, and John Kirby did the same thing. So he's the national security spokesperson, White House. You remember just 2 days ago when I was streaming, like I showed you this video where he was crying, and then as soon as he was asked a question by Al Jazeera, he started saying, "I'm going to let the Israelis comment as to what they target and so on." You know, what do you mean? You're the one giving them the bombs. You literally give them the bombs and the guns and the money. It comes from you. What do you mean you're going to let them talk about it? They didn't ask you you didn't talk about this with the Israelis first. You have no clue. You don't watch the bloody news. You don't follow what's going on. If anyone should comment on this, it's the Americans, because they are the ones that need to be held to account. And of course, the UK, but the UK does not bankroll Israel to the tune of America's yearly stipend. So do you understand my point here? Is that they, when it suits them, they're more than happy to say, "Oh, Israelis suffered this, Israelis victims that, Israeli babies this, Israeli women that." Even when it's made up and Biden lies and has to walk it back. And then when they're asked a tough question, they say, "Oh, look, I don't know, man. You have to ask the Israelis. I don't know. I just give them the bombs. I don't know."
You're saying that Israel is a democracy. It's a country that abides by international law. I'm asking you,
yeah, so here's a clip from the BBC. I warned you.
What is simple is that whatever actions are taken by a democracy, it has to be done in accordance with international law. And we have heard tonight from the President of the United States that he has been on the phone to Netanyahu, and both of them have agreed that democracies need to act in accordance with international law.
Pause there, if I may. Do you think cutting off food, water and electricity is within international law?
I think that Israel has an absolute right to defend itself against terror.
Here we go with the slogan again. You see how they play this game?
Question I asked.
It is an answer to the question that you've asked, and I think it's an appropriate one at this time.
Why won't you answer whether you think it's in line with international law or not?
Because I've tried to answer, and I've tried to say that we've already heard from your previous guest about what might be happening on a day-to-day basis. So we're now on day 4. And so we hear that there are troops massing on the border. There may well be an incursion. Immediately before an incursion, then, as the permanent representative have said, that it might be appropriate in those circumstances.
What is this word salad? What the fuck is she talking about?
for there to be the sort of action that we've heard about. And then the
sort of action that we've heard about. What are you talking about? A spanking? They're cutting off their food. Like, they talk about these things like it's just casual, you know. It's like, yeah, you know, we're following up with them, and you know, they might be this sort of, you know, war crime behavior, whatever.
Then the invasion afterwards. I don't know, because at the moment we're in the middle of a hot war, and Israel is in the middle of defending itself, and we have to stand.
Once again, Israel defending itself.
With Israel, just like we would expect people to stand with us if we were the victims of terrorism as well.
Yeah, see, the problem is that when we are victims of terrorism, we let the terrorists do this stuff because we know who they are in advance, and then we use that to start wars. And you know, it's basically exploiting tragedies to whip up fury, stir up emotions, play on people's heartstrings, get them riled up, and then exploit that anger to justify wars. It's propaganda, and these are non-answers. So, I'm surprised that the host even bothered to ask about the Israeli crimes. But that's the thing, because they'll only do it for a bit and then they won't touch it. So out of 24 hours in a news cycle, they'll talk maybe 3 minutes. Like not even. This clip is 1 minute and 21 seconds. So you know, it's like they do this to appear as if they're unbiased. Some people are angry at the BBC because they refuse to call Hamas terrorists because of their language guide and a styling guide and so on, and a styling book. And I mean, it is factually wrong to call them terrorists. They are not terrorists. They're guerrilla fighters. So as I said, you can go look at the UN Charter. You might have a copy lying around, or the Geneva Convention, and that's it. That's the definition. They're guerrilla fighters. They have the right to do anything that it takes to get people off of their land. Period. I don't make the laws. I'm just telling you the facts. Okay? Now, calling them terrorists, you are immediately just doing Israeli propaganda. If you actually look at, you know, even with the Israelis, we don't usually say that their behavior is terrorism, even though it is actually designed to terrorize an entire population. You know, there's a big difference between bombing a besieged strip of beach and putting people into a concentration camp, and on the other hand, people trying to take back their own land and fighting a colonial power. These two things have nothing to do with each other. You cannot say, oh, well, the people fighting their oppressors are terrorists, and the oppressor lashing out and crapping all over the entire population, doing collective punishment. This is Israel defending itself. You know, it's like the world is upside down. So it's really nasty listening to mainstream media all day, you know, pumping out this propaganda. And so, you know, this is Thornbury, okay, the woman who was being interviewed. So she's an MP, she's a member of parliament, and they all sound like this. Right? So she's from the Labour Party, and you can imagine that Tories and Labour, so Conservatives, and the Labour Party, they're indistinguishable. They're both pro-Zionist. They're like you know, rabidly pro-Zionist. They're so pro-Israel. It is violent and disgusting. You know, they chased, I think, a Channel 4 crew, they were chasing Jeremy Corbyn through the streets of London, and they were like hounding him, like, will you condemn Hamas? Will you condemn Hamas? You know, they did this to him before, where they basically persecuted him to the point that he got, like, his image was so destroyed by the British tabloids and the British press, who are garbage, that, you know, they got him removed as the leader of the Labour Party. And they only did this because he is actually an anti-racist. He has fought against racism his whole life, whether it was apartheid South Africa or apartheid Israel. And because they, you know, the media and the political elites are so pro-Israel, they hound you to death, you know, like literally killed his career because he wasn't pro-Israel. Right? And so they said, oh, he is a terrorist, oh, pro-Hamas, oh, this and that. Go to hell, man. Go to hell, seriously. Why don't they go and hound Netanyahu through the streets of London and ask him if what he's doing is in accordance with international law? Why don't they do that?